Okay, so we're going to start on these circles, and I'm going to start with the lightest color of gray. Now, there's two different ways that you can do these large circles that are going to go all the way around. One is to choose the size of a tool and then just kind of wing it and start placing your dots and just go along in a row until you get to the end and hope that they all fit. That kind of freaks me out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is show you how I space them out so that I can have fairly consistent spacing going around in this circle. So I chose my size tool that I wanted for the size dots, and I am actually going to follow the guidelines now, and I'm going to go just above that center guideline, and I'm going to do the poles like I did before. So I'm just going to move my paint actually off to the side to keep it from getting hit when I spin. And I'm just going to start dotting on the poles. So 12 o'clock or the North Pole, whichever way you want to think about it as a clock. And then I'm going to keep going. And then I'm going to follow. I'm not going to follow this guideline that's here. What I want to do is actually divide this center section in half, just like I did with the center rows. It's going to be very similar to that. So yeah, I'm not using the corner guidelines, but that's okay because I still want to get this symmetry down as best as I can here. So, and then I can still kind of use my line across here to help get them symmetrical across. Nice straight lines. Just going to clean off my tool really quickly here. And then we're going to go again for this next one, kind of go across. Oops, maybe hold that still. And go there. Now, one thing to notice is I got a little bit of a crack in my center dot. That is usually because there's more paint on there than needs to be, and the edges dry significantly faster than the center. So if you get cracks like this, don't panic. It happens. Now to fix a crack like this, what I am going to do is I'm potentially going to go, once this is all completely dry, and either sand it, or as I put my top dots on here, it'll fill in anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it. I've had cracks in my dots before, and by the end of the project, especially after putting on top dots, it really turns out to not be an issue. So just in case you notice that there, let me zoom in. You can see that nice big crack there in the middle. But again, if that happens to you, don't panic, okay? So I'm going to keep going with dividing these sections in half. So this is going to help me keep some fairly consistent spacing. I'm still going across for me because that for me is the most comfortable and where I find I'm the most accurate at actually dividing these sections in half. You might find that you're able to do it really well by just dotting in front of you and not having to kind of spin and go across like this, but just kind of practice with it and see what you find to be the easiest thing for you. So here I can still go back and kind of find the middle. It's hard when you've got the guidelines there, I know, to ignore them and only look at the spacing of the dots, but it'll help, I promise. Okay. And there's that. Okay, so now that I'm just going to keep repeating the process, dividing these sections in half. Like this one. And already I'm seeing that I think I made a good decision because I'm going to put another dot in the middle in here. And I'm actually going to add a bit of paint to this one and make it a little bit bigger. That feels good. Do the same here. And then we're going to keep going. And any that seem a little bit off sizing wise, I'll probably add a little bit more paint to them as I go around here. But just use your judgment, use your eye, figure out what's helpful for you. Like this one can probably take a little bit more paint. Get a little bit bigger there. Once you get the first row done and all of your spacing done here, then the fun starts. I find doing these circles can be very, very relaxing because you get into a really good rhythm of dip and dot and dip and dot and dip and dot over and over and over again. So if you're doing this and you're kind of having a bit of a quiet space, this is really where you can take some time, especially when you get into the next rows after this first one is done, where you can really kind of settle in and enjoy the rhythm of it a little bit. Sorry for coughing in your ear there. My apologies. There we go. And then we're going to just complete the process. So as I'm spinning this around, I'm just going to keep spinning once I finish this side and these divisions, and then go through and finish the rest. It is going to leave a little bit of space in between each dot, but I'm totally okay with that because we can always go in and fill that in with other detail if we need to later. So I think that looks like a pretty good spacing. That one dot's a little bit bigger, but that's okay too. Not the end of the world. One goal of mine is to perfect these kinds of circles. I've done a couple. I did a large piece, or I started a large piece. I shouldn't say I did it because it's not completed yet. That is full of a whole bunch of rainbow circles. So just kind of doing this same kind of thing, but just row after row after row, and none of this design. And it looks really good so far, but there's a couple different circles that I did that are a little bit more symmetrical and nice, beautiful round circles compared to a couple of the others. Overall, when a painting is going to be completely finished, it's not really going to matter that much, and it's certainly not going to stand out that much. But it is incredibly satisfying when you can get a really nice line. And if you heard that great big sigh, that was one of the puppies here having a nice big sigh before getting ready to go to sleep. He is a 180-pound Great Pyrenees Akbash mix. So he's a giant polar bear, and he is a snuggly, cuddly, wonderful polar bear. He's a good guard dog. He takes care of the farm, but he's a big baby, and I love him so much. So as you're trying new things on this piece, remember to give yourself some patience, right? Be kind to yourself. Remind yourself that you're practicing, that perfection is not a requirement in any way, shape, or form. The only requirement is enjoyment. And reminding yourself that every time you try something new, if you don't fail, that's okay. And if you do fail, it's even almost more okay, because it means that you're trying something new and you're going outside of your comfort zone and you're learning. And that's the fun part with this. I feel like I'm always learning with this art form. I'm learning all kinds of new lessons every day, whether it be something internally with myself, a new discipline, focus to finish one project before starting on another. There are so many lessons that this art form can really teach us, in any creative endeavor, really. Anytime you're doing something creative and getting that creative energy out, there's an opportunity to learn an awful lot. Okay, so there is our first row completed. Now for this one, I used it. You can choose whatever size you want. Remember to use your test canvas and test out the size that you want. I knew I wanted to start fairly small, somewhere in this neighborhood compared to the center. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go up a size in my tool, maybe even 2 sizes actually. I'm using a size 2, so I think I'm going to go up to a size 4. Maybe I'll even just go up to a 3 and see how big I make them. If you're unsure what size you want to do and you're not going to use a test canvas to compare the size, then always err on the side of caution and start with the smaller. That one actually is going to be a good size, I think. What you're kind of looking for here is this going past the halfway point of the 2 dots that are down here? That's how I kind of judge it anyway. I still go every other one. Oops, I made that one a little bit bigger, so I'm going to make these ones a little bit bigger too while they're still wet. Let's see here. There we go. Oops, and I still have to move my paint. Every time I put it on the Lazy Susan, then I wonder why I have to reach different for it. And continue to be kind to yourself, right? Get into the rhythm. Take this as the meditative experience that it can be. And let yourself have some time to breathe and create something that's going to make you smile. I promise you that once you've finished your first one and you see it, you're going to be like, damn, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was. As hard as I thought it was going to be. And as long as you have fun, then it's worth keeping going. Oops, I skipped one. See that? So I'm just going to go in and fill in those two right now. Why not? Here we go. So sometimes I'll go all the way around like this, going every other one. Sometimes I'll just do a couple and then backfill. It's completely up to you. I change multiple times throughout a project of which way I decide to go and just do what feels good. There are no rules where that is concerned. Isn't this grayscale fun though? I'm excited to see what colors you guys are choosing, if you are doing the grayscale or if you're doing other colors or multiple colors. I'm really excited. And the dog just snored. Sorry, guys. He had a snort. So always being careful too not to stick your hand in the paint. I've done that many times and it's infuriating, but remember that if you need to fix something, you can get a wet cotton swab. Those spongy eye makeup eyeshadow applicators that you can get at a dollar store, those work really well too. And then just wipe off the wet paint. Try and catch it when it's as wet as you possibly can if you catch it. And then it'll just wipe right off. Once that dries, then you can cover it with some of the black paint or whatever your base color is and be able to jump right back in once it dries. You'll hear me say this a lot in all of my tutorials, that's one of the reasons why I like black backgrounds. It's very forgiving and it covers up any mistakes really well. Like if I was doing this on a white background, I could still wipe it off and I could still paint back over with white, but it might take a couple of coats of the white in order to kind of get the coverage, whereas the black will just be a quick little slap on some black and you'll be good to go again fairly quickly. Craft acrylics dry fairly quickly, so when you're doing things like when you've fixed a mistake and you're getting ready to go back in and paint over it to finish it up and to kind of catch up, you should be able to do that within 10 minutes or so. It should dry pretty quickly. But I'm loving this grayscale. It's so pretty. So when I'm looking at this, one of the places that my eye immediately goes to is all of the empty space between the petals in these sections. So my immediate thought is that once we finish the design out to the edge and we go in and start doing the top dots, I'm going to add in some swoops, I think. Unless I know for sure that I want to do the swoops in a certain section, I will often go back, especially on canvas or like a bigger wood project. I will always go back in and add in those space fillers a little bit later once I see how the design comes together. But if it's a project that you know you want swoops in, add them in anytime you want. So in theory, if you want to add in swoops in any place where I'm adding in petals, go for it. All right. So the reason not my spacing, but I've got 2 to fill in here is because I had that other spot where I did the same thing, where I skipped 2 instead of only skipping 1. So here we go. Almost done this row. And the other big thing is consistently and remind yourself to take your time and slow down. Right? Most of the time when I make mistakes, it's because I'm going too fast or I'm rushing the entire process. So if I'm, not letting things dry properly, and I should be before reaching over and painting more, that is usually a recipe for mistakes. If I am trying to dot too fast, that can make a big one as well. And that one, for me, I'm the kind of person that I keep time with the music I'm listening to. So it's really important for me to not have a super high-paced song on necessarily, because I don't want to start going too fast. So let's see here. I'm going to do one more row with gray number 3. So I did gray number 1 as the inside row, gray number 2, and now I'm going to do gray number 3 for one final row of this section here. Then we're going to get in and do a couple more petals too. So this time I'm just going up one size. I'm going to a size 4. So again, test out on your test canvas and see how your size relations are. You could easily take, if you know that this is something that you're going to do, what you could do is take your few different tools and do some straight lines, just lines of dots, and then see as you add more lines which size tools you like the results the best with. So I'm constantly saying to myself, even when I get in a really good rhythm, I'm constantly saying to myself, slow down, take your time, there's no rush here. One of the things that I really noticed from doing dot painting, and I may have mentioned this already even in this tutorial, but I feel like it's worth mentioning again, is that this art form really helped me to build my confidence in a lot of areas of my life. I am more likely to try new things. I'm more likely to sit and listen to myself and my intuition. I'm familiar now with where my inspiration comes from and how I want it to feel. So if I have a level of inspiration, or if I get suggestions from people that don't sit well with that side of me where I connect with my intuition, then I know what that feels like now. And it gives me a lot more confidence in the decisions that I make for myself in a lot of areas of my life. And that's the beauty of just jumping in and trying something for the joy of it, right? Because when you're doing it for the joy of it, you're not tied to the outcome. It could turn out like absolute garbage, and it doesn't matter if you had a blast the whole time. And chances are it's not going to look like garbage. I'm sure you guys are creating beautiful, beautiful things as we go through this tutorial, and I can't wait to hear what you think and see what you've created. If you want to share, would love to see. I'd love to see. All right. So now that I've gotten that all the way around, I'm going to go through and I'm going to fill in the spaces. Isn't that satisfying? There's something about the grayscale though, eh? Like, it's just so delicious. Like watching a black and white movie. Oops, that one needs a little bit more paint. There we go. If you can catch something when the paint is still wet, that is kind of the sweet spot that you want to get into. Ooh, there's a hair there. Oh, all right. Well, here we go. Let's have a look and see what this is like. I got a hair in my paint, and it caused that little drip there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my black paint, and I need to grab, I'm just going to grab the lid, and I'm going to grab a little tiny paintbrush from over in my jar, and grab some black paint and cover right over it. And then should be good. I'll let that dry. I will skip over that couple little spots. And then we'll come back to it and fix it after. I could go in and fix it now because the black paint was actually separated from where I was doing the dotting, but just to be on the safe side, the risk with that is if my dot does connect with any of the wet black paint, it could run together and it could cause the dots to be all wonky shaped. So here, why don't I zoom in a little bit? See if I can get you a good angle here, a little bit closer for a couple. So I'm not really touching the tool. I'm just kind of pushing it down and pushing the paint out. That one had a little bit of a notch in there. That happens when you're working with canvas because there's the fibers in the canvas, right? Oh, I better turn this so you can see it though. That would probably be helpful. So the fibers in the canvas can cause your dots to be a little misshapen every once in a while, and that's okay. Using gesso apparently will smooth things out fairly well to give you a smoother surface, so that's always something to consider. Or you can add a couple extra coats of black paint on your base coat or whatever color you use on your base coat. That can always be an option for you too. The more layers of paint you have on there, the more is going to smooth out on the surface. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to wing it. I'm going to try it with this one. I'm going to put that dot in there and hope for the best that it doesn't run into the black. And it looks like we're good. We're safe. So now I'll zoom back out again. And there we have it. Looks pretty cool, eh? All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some big dots going all the way around, and where I'm going to add, so just like I did with here for the petals, I'm going to do that here, and we're going to do a couple rows of petals around the outside. Now they're going to start to go off the edges soon, so I'll be able to show you how I deal with that. But until then, so I usually will pick up another tool and kind of see what size do I think I used the last time. I think that was an 8. So just keep looking at your tools, and again, keep going slightly larger than the last one. So I want to go a little bit larger than that dot. You don't have to, because I'm out around the edge. I could choose another size, but I could go with the same size, or I could even go smaller if I really wanted to, but this is the choice that I want to do right now. So I'm lining it up with this one here because I want the pattern to still look symmetrical. And I'm still leaving a bit of spacing so that I've got some room around this dot to do the walking dots. So I'm going straight over here, kind of right here. And once you place your first dot, and you can kind of see where it sits around your guidelines, you can see where it sits compared to the other rows, then that can help quite a bit as well. So now, because this is quite separated, I might even add in another one here. I think I will actually, but let's do these ones first. That's the beauty of it. You can do whatever you want, right? So I'm going to, and I should have moved that one out a little bit more. So that's okay though. And then I'm going to go over this side. And I'm going to go straight across here. And I'm going to go here. Now the reason I'm thinking I'm going to go and divide these sections again and do it some more large dots is because if I do 2 or 3 rows of the walking dots around here, it's still going to leave a lot of empty space, and I really want to fill it up a little bit more. So I'm not really lining it up with this petal. I'm looking at 50%, You know, how can I divide it in half between those other 2 dots? It'll be pretty darn close, but it still is going to help with my spacing and help with the evenness of my petals when I'm out here. So right about there. Right about there. There. And I can still go back and line it up with here. Line it up with the dot closest to me. I find looking at the 50% is and dividing it in half is almost easier, because if this one down here is off slightly, I don't necessarily want to continue on that offness. So here we go. And that one's going to be just beside, but it's almost completely dry. So we're gonna go for it. There we go. All right. So I'm going to keep going with the same kind of pattern with the white around the edge, and then on this one I'm going to use grays 1, 2, and 3. So this, instead of 3 rows of walking dots like it's in the middle, I'm hoping to do 4. We're going to see how they fit, but that is the goal right now. So I'm going back to my small tool. I'm going to start with the peak dots, the ones that are at the top of the petal. You can hear me because when I'm dipping it into the paint, I'm dipping it all the way down to the bottom of the container. And that's okay too. You'll get muscle memory for how deep you have to dip it in the paint. You'll create that muscle memory and that repetition. All right. Getting all zen over here. There we go. Oops, maybe a little bit more paint there. Sometimes just retouching your tool back down will let some more paint come off of it. And help with your dots if you need it. The longer you hold it there, the larger the dot will be, if you still have a lot of paint left on the tool. So I'm not worried about where this dot is as far as those lines, because I know I'm going to do potentially at least 3, if not 4 rows of the walking dots. I'm not super worried about where this peak dot is being placed in terms of with relation to the guidelines. All right. Oh, I hope I didn't just screw up that taping for you. All right, so let's go down here and do the walking dots. So when you're doing the walking dots, again, make sure that you're cleaning off your tools at a regular interval, like every 2 or 3 walking dot rows. You could even do it every petal. Now I didn't count this one because I was talking, but let's count this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cleaning off the tool. I'm wiping it on my hand. Sorry for the extreme close-up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you could go as small as you want to with this. I've seen some dot artists and they go like micro when they're doing some of these, and they'll actually do the same size dot all the way around and almost create just a circle with a bunch of dots around it instead of doing the walking dots. That's an option as well. So like using a toothpick or even this size tool and just creating dots all the way around that are all the same size. I tend not to do that terribly often, honestly, because I'm a little bit lazy. And the idea of doing dip and dot and dip and dot and dip and dot for a whole bunch of circles all the way around like that just seems so labor intensive to me. But I have on occasion done it, and it does have a really, really nice effect. It does look absolutely beautiful, especially when they're really, really tiny, tiny dots. Five, six, seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The repetition is where the meditation kind of comes into play, right? It's so relaxing. And you get into that repetition that you just want to keep going. So if you're working on this tutorial and if you start working on this project without listening at the same time, make sure you have something on that is going to help you with that relaxation, right? Either some good music. Sometimes, like I said, I'll put on Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or Friends because I don't have to pay attention to it. You know, I know what's happening. I've seen it often enough that I know what's happening. I'm not missing anything. But the sound gives me something to kind of have in the background that I know I enjoy listening to. But I gotta say, it's pretty relaxing right now with no other sound. Right now. It's pretty darn calming. So since this is my first tutorial on here, I am going to take a minute to ask you for your feedback. You know, is there issues with the sound? Is there issues with, you know, focus in the camera? Do you want to see more close-ups? Would you rather see more distance shots so that you can see the whole thing? I'm going to try and give a mix of both of those, and I'm not using a headset right now or a microphone. I'm just speaking into my phone that's really right in front of my face. So let me know what works well for you, and if you have any feedback at all. And, you know, I just realized that my nails are filthy. I was outside with the dogs earlier and I apparently didn't clean my nails very well when I washed my hands. So, little things like that I'm going to start taking care of, I promise. I need to paint my nails a color so that doesn't matter. Like when you leave them natural, right? Sometimes, you guys ever have that where you wash your hands, 6, 7, and like 2 minutes later, you're like, my nails are dirty again. How did that happen? Or is that just me? Is that just farm life, maybe? Could be. It could just be a farm thing. I don't know. Sure can make you feel grungy, though. I'm like, I'm clean. I promise. I did wash my hands. 5, 6, 7. Let's do one more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The other thing I'd love your feedback on are what other projects you'd like to see. You know, I am going to be offering my middle tier of the tutorials tier is going to be offering voting power. But because this is the first couple, I want to make sure that if there is something that you'd like to see, you know, because you guys are the first ones here and this is the first tutorial, if you have anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to go with my gut and see what happens. So here's the design right now. Looks pretty good, eh? So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to the next size up with my tools, and I am going to go to gray number 1. So again, in my palette here, I've got white, I've got the darkest gray, which is my inside, and then I've got 1, 2, 3 of the light grays. So I'm going to go to gray number 1. I'm going to not put it on my Lazy Susan so it doesn't spin all over the place with me. And I'm going to start placing these. So remember that as you're adding more rows of the walking dots of the petals, you want each kind of peak dot here to be slightly bigger than the one before it. That's what's going to help give you. If you want more of a peak too, you can leave more space. Like if I was to go up here, I could kind of make more of a peak around. And maybe we'll do that in one of the tutorials. Different kinds of peaks and different kinds of petals as opposed to just these kind of round ones. Got a bunch of neat project ideas in mind, so we'll definitely try some stuff like that. So you're starting to be able to see that, you know, after another couple of rows, we're going to be over the edge there. And that's when it gets fun, because then you have to start estimating about where that dot would be and where you need things to kind of be symmetrical. So there we go. Sometimes, sooner or later on this, we are going to get to the point where we're going to need to add a little extra help for us to get enough paint, to keep enough paint on the tool for us to do the walking dots. Right now, I know that the amount of paint I can hold on this tool is still going to make it all the way around these petals without running out of paint. But we are going to get to the point where that's not going to work, and I'm going to show you a trick then for how to do that. So let's zoom in again, and we'll do these walking dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to do 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm wiping the tool off after each petal. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I am going to keep doing this one. You can listen to the sounds that are around me. Cat's eating some food. Take some breaths for yourself. Enjoy this part of the process. 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll hear me whisper counting in the background at some points, I'm sure, again. But most importantly, for the rest of this round, just take some time to breathe and enjoy the kind of meditative process that this is going to provide here. Cat is back over here. I think he's gonna climb up here with me soon. What's up, LJ? LJ, you okay? Hi. How are you? Oh, you might hear him squeak here a little bit too. You can almost time your breaths. Breathe in nice and slowly in through your nose when you're doing one side. Hold your breath while you dip and then breathe out. Breathe in. Hold and breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Just make sure you don't hold your breath. Not for too long anyway. Now that one was only 7, that's okay. Dog's work. All right, so I'm going to do 2 more rows of walking dots because I think I'm going to get, it might only be 1 more row of walking dots actually. That might be enough to fill up that next space. So let's see. What size do I want it to be? So again, you're going to pick another tool that's going to be slightly bigger. It's going to cause a dot here that's slightly bigger than the one before it. Oh no. Oh yeah, that's the right one. I thought I chose the wrong gray. So I'm using gray number 2 now. But remember, you can use any color combination in any order that you choose. There are no wrong ways to do it. If you find that you've got a color combo that you don't like, you will know it and you will remember it for next time. But it's always good to try. One of the things that I've learned from some of the custom commissions that I've done is that there are color combinations that I would have never chosen to do myself that look absolutely amazing in the end. So it's always worth giving it a shot. And remember too, you can always bling it up if you want to, right? You could go in here and add a couple rows of silver if you wanted to. You could add in a couple rows of any color that you wanted to if you're following along with the grayscale as well. It's completely up to you.